investigations. We will not let their behavior distract us from the work we must do. We will not let their behavior distract us from the work we must do. Now, this morning, I want to welcome Chief Steve Anderson of the Metro Nashville Police Department, who is here to provide an update. Now, this morning, I want to welcome Chief Steve Anderson of the Metro Nashville Police Department, and continuing criminal investigations on this weekend. And I am grateful to all Nashville's public safety and continuing criminal investigations this weekend. And I am grateful to all police officers who showed tremendous restraint on Saturday while engaging in honest dialogue with peaceful. Our police officers showed tremendous restraint on Saturday while engaging in honest dialogue with peaceful demonstrators in de-escalation and prevented confrontations. Last night, our streets remained calm and we are continuing to examine our curfew policy day by day. Last night, our streets remained calm. But we will establish a curfew again this evening, June 1st, curfew policy day by day. Pushing the start time, but we will establish a curfew again this evening, June 1st, in order to protect pushing the start time to 10 p.m. The words of the destroyed civil rights in order to tribute the granite plaque, which was used to vandalize civil rights tribute, begin plaque. On the 19th of April, 1960, Nashville proclaimed itself a beacon. On the 19th of April, 1960, Nashville proclaimed itself a beacon. I believe in these words of civility, and we need these and reconciliation. I urge all of us to help protect and treasure Nashville as a beacon of civility as we listen to one another. I urge all of us to help protect and treasure Nashville as a beacon of civility as we listen to one another in our community and work together. Now, as we enter the second week of Phase 2 for our roadmap for reopening Nashville. Now, as we enter the second week all local business owners for our roadmap for reopening Nashville and taking care of their staff and customers. I want to thank all local business owners. Our economic reopening responsibly and taking care of their staff and customers. And to all Nashvillians who are maintaining healthy habits to protect yourselves and your loved ones, please. And to all Nashvillians who are maintaining healthy habits to protect yourselves, wear your mask in public spaces, keep up the good work, or practice safe social distancing. Every time you wash your hands, you are making a difference. Wear your mask in public spaces, and could be saving a life, or practice safe social distancing, and you will help us get back to work and could be saving a life. Perhaps even this past Friday, May 29th, we announced that Nashville's world-renowned live musicians and entertainers. Now, this past Friday, May 29th, we announced that Nashville's world-renowned live musicians and entertainers both themselves, staff, and bars throughout Davidson County. This means under guidelines we can add 2 more additional performers on stage at the same time. This means with proper public health measures. We can add 2 more additional performers. Our ongoing collaboration with public health with proper public health measures in place. Our ongoing collaboration with public health experts and business owners have helped us develop this important update to the roadmap, but we must move forward carefully. I urge everyone to proceed with care as we work to uphold Music City's global reputation for safety. These new live entertainment protocols and other Phase 2 details are carefully outlined on Metro's COVID-19 website at covid19.nashville.gov. Remember, a successful economic restart will require all of us to keep ourselves and each other safe. By maintaining social distancing, wearing masks, and observing other important safety measures, we will be able to advance through our roadmap without interruption and ensure a sustained reopening. Now, today we're joined by Mary Lynn Salter, Executive Director of the Tennessee Association of Alcohol, Drug, and Other Addiction Services, who is here to discuss the Tennessee Red Line, a 24/7 addiction treatment and recovery resource. Overdose deaths have increased across the United States since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, including here in Davidson County. This is a particularly difficult time for anyone who is struggling from addiction, but help is available. If you are struggling with substance abuse, call the Tennessee Red Line at 1-800-889-9789 for accurate, up-to-date addiction information and referrals. And as always, please consider contributing to the COVID-19 Response Fund or visit Metro's COVID-19 website to learn how you can obtain direct financial, food, mental health, and social service assistance. I'll now turn it over to Dr. Alex Shahanger, Chair of the Metro Coronavirus Task Force, who is joining us today by video conference.
Thank you, Mayor Cooper, and good morning, Nashville. I had a conflict in in my schedule today, and so I'm joining you remotely today and also will on Thursday. Here's the latest on coronavirus in Davidson County. We now have 5,517 confirmed cases. That's an increase of 132 cases in the last 24 hours. 1,289 cases are currently active, and 4,165 cases, or 75% of all cases, have recovered and have been cleared. We now have 63 Nashvillians who have died because of the COVID-19 virus. Hospital bed availability is at 31%, and available ICU beds is at 28%. Both of these metrics are back in the green section this morning. At one point last week, they were yellow, and this is normal as these numbers are fluid. As the hospitals open up more and deliver more care, these numbers will change daily. The important thing to remember is that Nashville is fortunate to have a very strong and robust healthcare system, and we are confident that we have sufficient capacity if we need it. Here's the latest race data we have collected. The Davidson County confirmed cases include 34% white, 18% multiracial, 13% Black or African American, 5% Asian, 8% unknown, and 22% pending. And of the 63 Nashvillians who have died, 31 are white, 26 are Black or African American, 4% are listed as other, and 2 are of Asian descent. These numbers have stayed consistent over the past month. The virus highlights health disparities which exist in our society, where minorities and those with limited access to health care are seriously impacted disproportionately. And these numbers continue to show that story. That is why it is important for all Nashvillians who are concerned about the virus to get tested. 3 community assessment centers and our assessment hotline are open today. The center is open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Monday through Friday, and the assessment hotline is open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Please call 615-862-7777 and speak with a medical professional if you have any questions or concerns regarding this virus. The hotline and community assessment centers are free services for our residents. So, if you think you have the virus, if you have been exposed to someone who has the virus, or if you're just concerned, please call the hotline or please visit one of our assessment centers. We are now in the beginning week 2 of our phase 2 of our roadmap to reopen Nashville. And as we continue, we have good momentum. Please do your part, though. Please stay at home. Keep your distance if you go out. Wear your face coverings when you do go out. And get tested if you have any concern around the virus. And please make sure to take care of your loved ones. I will be available for questions at the end of this speaking portion. I now would like to introduce Chief Anderson.
Good morning. Good morning. At 8 o'clock last night, detectives from our Specialized Investigation Division and our SWAT officers arrested 25-year-old Wesley Summers at a home in the Madison area. It was citizen tips and other elements of our investigation that we identified Summers as one of the persons responsible for the arson attack on the historic courthouse Saturday night. He's the person in the photographs seen by many of you. Summers has been charged with aggravated arson, both serious felonies, as well as vandalism and disorderly conduct. He's being held in the Metro Jail in lieu of a $755,000 bond. I'd like to thank District Attorney General Glenn Funk for personally working with our officers last night to ensure that proper charges were lodged and also that appropriate bail was set for Mr. Summers. Our investigation into this has not stopped. There are many others. We've received a significant number of tips from Crime Stoppers concerning persons who essentially betrayed the protesters who wanted to exercise their freedom to voice their concerns and instead resorted to criminal acts. We're working to confirm the identities of these persons and we anticipate additional arrests. I should say there are multiple local, state, and federal law enforcement officers jointly investigating this situation. I also want to thank the members of our community for their cooperation. Law enforcement is not just a police effort, it's a community effort. So please, anyone with additional information, please contact us. You can go to our website, Metropolitan Nashville Police Department, and be directed to how you can provide information through Crime Stoppers or through a special email address that has been set up to receive video photographs. So we encourage anyone with any information, please share that with us. I'm also pleased to report that Sunday was quiet here in Nashville. No major incidents. Our officers, along with our partners in the Tennessee Highway Patrol, maintain a visible presence downtown. And I think the citizens understood the 8 p.m. curfew and why it was imposed. Again, there were no issues. And certainly I want to thank the state agencies, the TBI, the Tennessee Highway Patrol, and the National Guard for assisting us and continuing to provide that assistance. And I also want to thank all the Nashvillians who came downtown to peacefully protest and make their voices heard. More than 90% by estimate were peaceful and there to demonstrate their concerns. And they should have the right to do that without a criminal element infiltrating their ranks. And I also want to say that this police department joins in with all others across the nation in condemning the acts of what occurred in Minneapolis. And not just the officer with the knee on the neck of Mr. Floyd, the officers that stood by and watched also. We look forward to working with our community to resolve this situation, and we look forward to providing protection and facilitation as people peacefully protest and express their concerns in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Anderson. I'd now like to introduce Mary Lyndon Salter, Executive Director of the Tennessee Association of Alcohol, Drug, and Other Addiction Services.
Hello. As Mayor Cooper described, the Tennessee Red Line has been administered by TADIS for several years, and I'll just underscore that number again, 800-889-9789. This is a 24/7 free confidential referral to treatment hotline. It includes referrals to providers that are state funded to provide services to people without health insurance. We are working with many of our community partners, including the Metro Health Department, to address the spike in overdoses around the state with partnerships through prevention programs, healthcare providers, and other outreach events. We recognize that while social isolation is necessary at this time, it has led to more people using substances alone. There's no one there to call 911. There's no one there to administer naloxone. We're trying to stress that it is more dangerous to use alone than to recover in community. Addiction treatment providers are implementing the same safety measures as other healthcare facilities. They are following the same CDC standards and working hard to keep everybody safe in their facilities. Telehealth is available. Treatment is available. Referrals to state-funded free treatment services are available. One of the things that we just started last week is a brand new warm line, and it's called the Mental Health Active Response Team warm line for emotional support. That warm line is being staffed by a network of professional counselors that are providing emotional support to fellow healthcare workers. It's also funded by the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. That hotline number, warm line, is 888-642-7886. It's 888-MHART-TN. It's available from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. in Central Time, as well as 7 to 11 Eastern Time for the state of all of our healthcare providers around the state. It provides free confidential support to people who've been providing care for people affected by COVID for the last few months. It's been exhausting, it's been stressful, and it's something that fellow healthcare providers want to help our team of people across the state to address. The line is staffed by volunteer mental health professionals, and if you go to our MHeart website, you can see ways to call to get support as well as to volunteer to help staff the hotline. It is available again 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. every day. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Salter. Let's begin today's Q&A session with Jeremy Finley at WSMV. Jeremy.
Good morning. Thanks again for answering our question, and thanks to all the officers who kept citizens and the press safe on Saturday night. I have 3 questions. The first, given the damage to the Metro Courthouse and the businesses on Lower Broad and on Fifth Avenue, do you feel that you underestimated the size of the numbers of people that would end up vandalizing and looting? Do you feel at all that you were caught off guard? Second question, those of us who were on Broadway overnight on Saturday, we watched as the Tennessee National Guard arrived, but only after Metro Police had cleared the streets fully. This again raises the question if the violence was underestimated at all. And third, do you have any reason to believe that the violence and looting was coordinated at all by groups outside of Nashville? Meaning, do you have any proof that organized radical groups were involved in causing that damage? Thanks again.
Thank you, Jeremy. Chief Anderson.
So the answer to our response and our estimation is clearly yes. We needed more people on the street. And looking at the size of the event, the anticipated size, we actually close to doubled the number of people that we had immediately available based on the crowd size, based on the specific need. And I think you can see probably for the first time in Nashville at any march, any demonstration, you saw officers in tactical gear. We don't really do that, hardly ever do that, but we felt it was important. We did not obviously anticipate the violence, the magnitude of the violence that occurred, and the leadership that caused that to occur. As to the question of whether this was an organized event, obviously there was some organization that occurred. Who is responsible and how it occurred is subject to further investigation.
Brett Kelman at the Tennessean, you're on the air.
Good morning. 2 questions for Dr. Jahangir. One, if the protests over the weekend lead to a spike in coronavirus cases, how long will it take for that to surface? What would be the timeline for us to see increased cases? And then second, do you think that merely being at the crowded protest over the weekend, regardless of if someone was a protester or a police officer or a journalist or anyone who was there, is that alone a good reason to go get tested for coronavirus?
Thanks, Brett. Dr. Jahangir.
Great. Hey, thank you, Brett, for that question. Regarding your first question, it typically takes anywhere from 3 to 7 days for this virus to, and really maybe 5 to 7 days for somebody to be symptomatic with this virus. So that if somebody were to be infected, that would be the initial timeline, although it can go up to 14 days. The other part of your question is I appreciate you asking that. So here's the thing. A great deal of people who have this virus can be asymptomatic carriers. However, I want to be very clear from what I understand about the rallies and the protests. A majority of people had face masks. It was outdoors, which is a much better than being indoors. And from what I understand, there's transient. It's just if you or be in contact with someone, typically it's transient. With that being said, I think it's not my general recommendation for anyone who was there to go get tested. However, if you are worried that you may have the virus, so for example, the symptoms that we haven't mentioned in a while: cough, shortness of breath, fever, loss of smell or taste, or diarrhea, get tested. If you if you're aware of someone that maybe you did come in contact with that had the virus, get tested. If you don't want to get tested, but you want to be out of overabundance of caution for your family members or friends, you can also self-isolate for 10 days if that is a worry of yours. But the general gist of your question, the mere fact of being at any of the rally protests this weekend, I would not say you necessarily need to get tested. But if you do need to be tested or worried about it, again, we have community assessment centers. We have our hotline if you want to speak to someone further about it. And then I encourage you to utilize all that to make sure that you're taken care of. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jahangir. Adam Tamburin at the Tennessean. Adam.
Hi, my question is for Chief Anderson. Have you or your detectives talked to Mr. Summers, and have you been able to determine what his motive might have been for his part in the arson attack? And have you determined if he might have been either acting alone or as part of a larger group?
Thanks for that question, Adam. Chief Anderson.
So Mr. Summers did not talk with our detectives to any extent, and certainly did not express any admission of guilt or his motives. I think other information was gathered that night that may prove helpful as we go forward in the investigation, but Mr. Summers has not been forthcoming.
Julia Palazzo at WKRN.
Thank you so much. A few questions. Mayor Cooper, do you have an idea at this point what the estimated cost of the damage is at the courthouse, and will you discuss how that's going to be paid for during tomorrow's budget meeting? Second question for you, similar to the fund set up for people affected by COVID-19, will there be a fund or some kind of resource set up for the businesses that were damaged over the weekend? And Chief Anderson, a question for you. There's been chatter on social media about the potential of 1,000 people on Thursday marching on I-24 near the Nissan Stadium entrance. And then there's also talk about another protest to the state capitol on the same day. Are you aware of these events, and how are you planning for them and any other potential ones in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Mayor Cooper.
Julia, thank you for the question as to the cost of the damage for us and other businesses. So far, it seems we all have insurance. So I think the out-of-pocket costs for the taxpayers on this hopefully will be covered by insurance, and hopefully for these other businesses as well. I would, of course, be interested in any businesses that had a loss that they felt was not being covered by insurance. I would ask them to reach out to my office. I want to take a moment and applaud so many citizens who are coming down and with their own time, effort, and money helping to clean up once again. It's an act of outstanding citizenship and makes us an inspiration for other cities. And then finally, I'd like to just add a comment in a way to an answer to the Chief's answer to Jeremy's question. The question about underestimating the need, let's look at other cities too. Comparatively speaking, Nashville did a really marvelous job under a difficult set of circumstances. We had very few injuries. There are none of our officers injured, for example. This is just not true in other incidences around the country. So I think you've got to acknowledge the professionalism by which the public safety officers conducted themselves and the blessing that there were non-injuries in Nashville. And then comparatively, we really are on the fortunate side of the ledger, which I also want to acknowledge. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. And when I was up here earlier, I should have also given thanks to Deputy Chief John Drake, who did an outstanding job Saturday night of personally organizing our response. and staying all hours of the night to make sure that everything was carried out. So he is currently, as we all are, monitoring what may occur on Thursday night and making plans accordingly. So, Chief Drake, would you come up and speak to that?
Good morning, everyone. As we do with any event, any planned demonstration, we began to assess that event. We began to make contact with individuals, and as those demonstrations evolve, then we put our plan together accordingly. This event will be no different. We'll make contact, we'll work with state and local agencies, and we'll have a plan put in place as we did for Saturday.
Alex Apple, Fox 17.
I have a question for the mayor. Mayor, the minority caucus on Metro Council sent a letter to you, I believe it was either Friday or Saturday, asking for a couple of things, but two things I wanted to ask you about is the city or is your administration looking to hire a chief diversity officer? That was one of the positions that they sought to have filled. And I wanted to ask you if you thought their criticism of the dispersal of federal funds or grants not proportionally going to the minority community, do you think that is fair? And how did you receive those comments from them?
Mayor Cooper.
Well, thank you, Alex. I welcome those comments. You know, I welcome the comments. The path of diversity and establishing equal treatment is always a concern, and we will do it and do it well. And I'm always grateful to Deputy Mayor Haywood in helping to lead our efforts in this direction. As to the dispersal of funds, the answer is no funds have been dispersed. It has not been dispersed. But when they are dispersed, it's going to be with the whole community in mind. The problem for the moment, if I can just step aside, is there's too much need in the community. It's the need all across the community. We don't have the money to possibly serve all of those needs. We have the needs for our kids getting back to school. We have the needs for public health to make sure there's not another outbreak. We have the needs of a social safety net for our most vulnerable, and that's food, housing, all kinds of assistances. So I look forward to working with the council to not only accept, but to succeed with all of the separate challenges that a city has right now. COVID has made it worse, to be sure. We had those challenges from before. We had housing challenges from before, but we really do now. And let's acknowledge that this is the worst unemployment situation that our city has seen since the Great Depression. We hope it is temporary. Everything that we do in social distancing may shorten that period of challenge to us, so let's do that and let's get us back to work and addressing these needs. But no, my answer to the minority caucus is I am grateful for their work in doing this.
Damon Mitchell, WPLN.
Hi, Chris. I have two questions. The first is for Mayor Cooper. Mayor Cooper, you said that there were more equal justice work that the city must do. Can you just kind of explain what that means moving forward? Is your office been in touch with the communities about their concerns on Saturday? And the second is for Chief Anderson. Do you feel that officers were slow responding to the courthouse? And second, I know that you did have the support of the National Guard, but did they actually need to do anything over the weekend?
Thank you, Damon. Start with Mayor Cooper.
Well, yes, David. And as the challenge of equal justice under law is just, it's an American challenge and has been, sadly, to keep the American promise available to all of our community. I'm going to spend a lot of the week meeting with leaders to determine what we can do better here in Nashville. We need to listen. All leaders, all elected officials need to listen carefully to the community. That's a process that was going very well on Saturday until it was interrupted. Now, as I said in my earlier remarks, we don't need to be diverted from the challenge of providing an equal, fair justice to everyone in America. We have to be willing to acknowledge our failures, and that there is systematic racism in America and there's inequality. So let's get on with it as a city and address those problems right now. For the moment, we need to make sure that everybody is safe and their First Amendment rights are protected, and that we can succeed as a city. But yes, of course, there's an equal justice challenge here, and there is in the country. And so let's work together to solve that problem.
Thank you for your question. In regards to a slow response, I don't feel that our response was slow. We had a group of police officers at the courthouse. We had a team in civil disturbance gear. Throughout the day, we had parts of the crowd that had been throwing objects at different officers, and so we wanted to get a team in their civil disturbance gear, and they were en route when the fire started. As the fire started, the team got there, used chemical agents to displace the agitators, and then we were able to get the fire department in and put the fire out. We'd like to thank the National Guard. They did come. They sent about 70 guardsmen. They helped guard the Capitol and other buildings, and the Tennessee Highway Patrol, who helped us as well. They came and had a response to help us do that a little quicker.
Harriet Wallace, Fox 17. Harriet?
Yes, good morning. I've got a few questions. First, for Chief Anderson, I know you had mentioned that you all just simply didn't anticipate in terms of what would happen, the overwhelming aftermath of the vandalism. My question is, as you also mentioned, we've seen what has happened in other cities. I'm not sure about their police departments, but I know we are at somewhat of a deficit and have been for some time. Was there any consideration to getting aid from also neighboring police departments, even activating or looking at getting the National Guard in sooner rather than later? Because, again, I know we maybe didn't see all that coming, perhaps, but we saw it in other cities, and we know that we are at a deficit. Also to you, Chief Anderson, back to the whole point of the peaceful protest, your remarks, your response to the comments from those who were rallying, saying that there is a great concern about the relationship and interaction between Nashville's African-American community and the police department. If you could respond to that. Mayor Cooper, any words for our businesses, especially Broadway, who were hit with COVID, trying to reopen, and now this setback? And how much longer will the National Guard be in place? Thank you.
Thank you, Harriet. We'll start with Chief Anderson.
So, Harriet, thank you. And in response to your first question, yes, we watch what goes on in all the major cities on a daily basis. But this is Nashville, and so we planned our response based on our history here in Nashville. As I said, we did increase the number of people available, but we try to send the right message. We try to make sure that Nashville is a place that people know that they can march the streets, that they can express their thoughts, and they'll have the assistance of this police department and this government to do so. So having people there in other than our traditional police clothes just sends the wrong message. Obviously, we had people in reserve. Obviously, we can always count on surrounding agencies for support. And they did provide support as the night went on, as did the Guard, as did the Highway Patrol. Your second question, I'm not sure I understood that.
If if I'm able to, I can repeat that.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, Chief Anderson, the original purpose of the protest that started at 3 was for those in the area, mostly African-American community, to express their concerns about the relationship between Nashville's African-American community and Nashville's police department, saying that there are some concerns with that relationship. And I was asking for your response to their characterization that there is a strain between those groups. Could you respond to that? And if there are any plans to mitigate the issues of that relationship?
Well, I think when you're talking about law enforcement and communities in general, there's always a strain, and certainly in our African-American communities. A lot of it is based on past history. I try not to dwell there, but certainly we want to take advantage of every opportunity we can to work together, to build fences, or tear down the fences between any community to make sure that we have the relationships that we want. And let me emphasize again, this march, this rally, this protest was very, very peaceful. Very, very peaceful. People were expressing their ideas, their thoughts, and we facilitated that. We protected people while they were doing that. It was a criminal element that entered into this group of people and organized what they did. So certainly we welcome the opportunity to be a part of any type of protest, demonstration, expression of ideas in the future.
Thank you, Harriet. Two parts of your question I wanted to respond to. Broadway, boy, it's another challenge and a challenging year. I'm grateful to them, and it's interesting. We challenged the public that we wanted to listen to the protocols in Safer at Home to do them better and to respond to an economic reopening. We responded. We listened and responded. The city is able to do that, and we were able to modify the Phase 2 opening live music rules so that we can get back to work sooner, more people can be employed and have some level of vibrancy in that space, which is much needed. And then this happened, and of course it's a setback. It's going to be a separate setback, but we're going to get through it. But I applaud those business owners for getting reopened. We want to help you, and we have listened and adjusted in order to do that. But the challenge is to getting all of us back to work too. And we're going to do that, and the way to do that, again, is social distancing and safety at this phase. As per safety, how long will the Guard be in place? The Guard will be in place until we are confident that, we are back to normal. The part of the use of the Guard is to make downtown Nashville, and again, the curfew will go on at least for one more night, but be pushed back till 10 o'clock, so that everybody participating in our public spaces downtown feels completely safe, and our residents also. And safety first, and I'm grateful to the Guard. Let's be grateful to our public safety officers here first. They're carrying the load here. They have been overtime shifts, hundreds have had extra dedicated service and a season of dedicated service, but they're getting the job done for us. I'm grateful to the state to supplement that effort. But when you find our safety officers, go thank them, because it has been a challenging time for them. And I'm grateful to the state to allow us to supplement our response, because some of these folks need a little bit of time off occasionally too. And I hope to make that happen for them.
Our last question comes from Nayeli Alamia at 96.7 FM.
Hi, good morning. I have a couple questions. One of them, can you give us an update on the mask distribution? What about the mask caused a pause in the distribution? Will there be more in the future? If so, when can we expect them? And what do we do with the masks that were already given out? My other question is, has there been a reward given for the tips that were given to the Crime Stoppers after arrests made yesterday? And my last question is, we are in the second week of phase 2, like you mentioned. Will there be a doubt in going into phase 3, since it will take a few days to see if there will be a spike due to the protest? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start with Dr. Caldwell.
Good morning. I've been in touch with the Tennessee Department of Health over the weekend since I first learned of this at 5 o'clock on Saturday about these face masks. We knew that there was a substance called Silvadur. It's an antimicrobial substance, and it is applied to this fabric. I right now can tell you that the State Department of Health is saying to us that until more data is made available about the application of this Silvadur to these masks, that we should not distribute them at this time. If you are comfortable wearing the mask, then please do so. I think that if you're not comfortable wearing it, we recommend you find some alternative material. But until we get more information from the Tennessee Department of Health about this, we are not going to be distributing them anymore. I'm not overly concerned with the safety of these masks, although I am concerned enough, and I'll be working with the Tennessee Department of Health to get more information as soon as possible.
And we'll turn it over to Dr. Jahangir to answer the question about phase 2.
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. My answer for you is we will continue to look at our many metrics over the next several days. I don't think we have enough information right now for me to, in good faith, to say yes or no. We will advance to phase 3, but I think we need to continue to see how the next several days plays out. I'll tell you today, we're in green for all of our metrics, but we've had an increase in the case the past couple of days, so we'll continue to watch them and be as straightforward with you as we can over the next several days. So thank you so much.
And thank you for the question about Crime Stoppers and the opportunity to talk about it again. Crime Stoppers is a separate entity from the police department. Donations are raised throughout the business and throughout the community to fund Crime Stoppers. There's a board that operates outside of the police department that makes decisions on the tips that they receive. So Crime Stoppers pays varying amounts, but it's based on not only the arrest of an individual, but also the indictment of the individual. So those will be determinations made by the Crime Stoppers board. So you can go to our website and find out how to contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. You can find information on reporting things directly to us, or all sorts of information about the police department wherein that you could decide how to report any information you may have. Thank you.
Those are all the questions we have this morning. I'd like to thank Chief Anderson and Ms. Salter for participating in today's press briefing. The next scheduled Metro COVID-19 press briefing will air on Thursday morning, June 4th at 9:30 a.m. As a reminder, you can stay up to date on Metro's coronavirus response at covid19.nashville.gov. Thank you for joining us. This concludes today's COVID-19 press briefing.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network.